All right, testing, 1, 2, 3. All right, we got a good mic. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Wooddale Community Development Commission. My name is Jamie Ochoa, and I am the chair for the Wooddale Community Development Commission. Ms. Secretary, can you please do a roll call?
Okay, Mr. Peterson is not here. Ms. Rudnicki?
Here.
Ms. Zatko? Here. Mr. Babowitz is not here. Mr. Woods is not here. Mr. Parenti?
Here.
And Chairman Ochoa.
Here. With that, the CDC does have a quorum present, and we'll move on to business items. We need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 16, 2023.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes, October 16th, 2023.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed signify by stating no. The motion carries, the minutes are approved. Moving on to our public hearing tonight. Mr. Conway, as chairman, I request that you serve as the public hearing facilitator.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Okay, for our public hearings, all testimony will be given under oath. At the hearing, there'll be an opportunity for the public to offer testimony and to comment. Following the public hearing, the CDC's deliberations will be open to the public in the sense that all are invited to listen and to watch. The public, however, may not speak during the CDC's deliberations. We ask that the applicant here tonight give specific evidence to demonstrate that their proposal meets the standards of approval for the request. The burden is on the applicant to prove the case. Additionally, city staff will provide a general description of the proposal followed by their analysis. With respect to others who wish to speak, you may give an opinion or present specific evidence as to why you believe the applicant meets or fails to meet the standards for the request. Finally, we'll strictly adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's meeting. However, those wishing to submit evidence and testimony will be afforded sufficient time within which to do so. Whether you're a member of the public wishing to make a statement for the record or a witness testifying on behalf of an applicant, you'll be placed under oath and you'll begin by stating your name and address. You'll be subject to questions by the Community Development Commission and potential cross-examination by the applicant. To allow as many people as possible to be heard, we would request that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes. If any additional time is needed, the hearing may be continued until the next available hearing date. Okay, so I'm going to call tonight's first and only matter. It's CDC 2023-007. This case involves an application filed by CIT Trucks, LLC. It is for 3 special uses to allow operation of a truck dealership, repair and rental facility, with accessory retail sale of vehicle parts in an existing building at 101 Middle Drive. A zoning variation for exterior site modifications and a sign code variation are also being requested. All right, let's begin with the public hearing portion. Staff, can you please indicate when notice of the hearing was published and whether you have the certificate of publication from the newspaper?
Would
Yes.
you raise your right hand, please state your name and address?
Andrew Coteras, 404 North Wooddale Road, Wooddale, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes, notice of public hearing was published in the Daily Herald on December 29th, 2023, and the certificate of publication is on file with the Community Development Department.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, do we have a representative for the applicant here tonight?
Yes.
Raise your right hand, please, and state your name and address.
Philip A. Lutgehans, 105 East Irving Park Road, Itasca, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
I do.
help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, the floor is yours, Mr. Lukian.
Okay, sorry, one second. Can you hear me? If I guess I need to go down further, but I'm keeping my phone because my client has been driving around trying to find the location. So if I take a quick break, I apologize, and that's why I think you heard it ringing earlier. But he was at my office 5 minutes away, and he kind of got turned around on GPS, so I apologize. Here with me tonight, besides hopefully my client, Eric Miner, who's the CEO of CIT Trucks, is Bill Loftus, one of the principals and engineers for Spaceco, which I'm sure many of you have seen in the past. We are seeking 3 special uses to allow operation of a truck dealership, repair, and rental facility with the accessory sale of retail truck parts at 101 Mattel Drive in Wooddale. We're also seeking 2 variations. One is for reducing the parking from 211 to 164 spaces. I'll call that the parking variation. And the second is seeking an increase in the allowable building signage from 100 square feet to 108.75 square feet, which I'll probably call the signage variation. CIT would be the lessee of the subject property, which is owned by B-Corp Corridor, Chicago LLC. The subject property has an existing industrial building which my client desires to repurpose for the uses I mentioned. The building footprint would remain the same, and the parking lot would be modified to better serve the new uses. Most of the modifications Mr. Loftus will talk about relate to circulation. Most of what will be brought in is trucks for repair or trucks to be sold, so we need a greater circulation than you would need for just an industrial, and we don't need as much staff parking as a regular office building / industrial. We'll talk about that more in a minute. I'm going to try and be relatively brief because the staff report is probably one of the most comprehensive I've ever seen. It was very, very good, and we don't always get that as applicants, so I don't want to belabor things, but if you have questions, I don't want to skip over stuff either. So if there's something you have a question about or I didn't cover correctly for you, please let me know. But the subject property's lot is 3 pins under common ownership for a total of slightly under 8 acres, 7.96 acres. It's zoned I-1 Industrial Business Park with a TIO overlay and has an existing building of 115,000 square feet. This existing building has been, or is vacant and has been vacant for some time, I believe. The surrounding zoning is set forth in the staff report, but the surrounding uses are all heavily industrial. It's in the industrial development, there's no doubt about it. On the east side of the street, obviously, is a park, but everything on the west side of Wooddale at that point is industrial. We think that kind of use fits with what we're doing here, and we'll talk about that more. My client, CIT Truck, operates over 19 truck dealerships and related businesses in Illinois, Missouri, and Indiana. At this location, they intend to operate a Kenworth sales dealership, which would include new and used commercial truck sales, part sales, repairs, and rentals. Not only would this would create a use for an existing empty building in Wooddale, it would bring in jobs to Wooddale, and it would create tax revenue both in the form of some sales tax as well as real estate taxes. Hopefully Mr. Miner will be here in a few minutes to talk about the operation a little more thoroughly than I can, but this is a company that he has owned for over 30 years. Started in the Bloomington area, I believe, and is now throughout pretty much the entire Midwest, or what we would consider the close Midwest to us. I'm going to ask Mr. Loftus, before we do, you have a number of exhibits in your packet. I noticed that I think we had supplemented at least a couple of those exhibits, so if you don't mind, I'm going to hand those out as exhibits 1 and 2. The narrative, I think the one in the packet is dated November 30th, 2023, and it's, should not remember the exhibit on that original. But we have an updated one after having conversations with staff. Can I just have this? Sure. So the updated narrative is dated January 3rd, 2024, is Exhibit 1, Mr. Hearing Officer. And then the variation standards are Exhibit 2. Those were updated after conversations with staff that you may recall from the first exhibit, or the first variation standards you were provided in the packet, that it had 4 variations. Upon further discussions with staff, it was realized that we didn't need all 4, we just needed 2. So this is very similar to what you had before, it's just cut out, for the most part, cut out 2 of the variations. Bill, you want to come up and talk about the site?
Would you raise your right hand? Please state your name and address.
Bill Loftus, 9575 West Higgins Road, Rosemont, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Could I ask staff to call up, do you have a copy of the site plan that you might, from the report by chance? If not, I can just speak to it.
Is that appropriate? Yeah.
There were very few changes. As you may, as Mr. Lukahans stated previously, my name is Bill Loftus. I'm with Spaceco. We were retained to assist with the civil engineering and surveying portion of this development. I'm going to touch on the site plan issues because it was primarily driven by what we would call auto turn or truck maneuvering. So you'll see outlined on this sketch, there were 2 existing curb cuts up middle from the south. We are proposing a 3rd entrance off of AEC Drive to facilitate that truck maneuvering. In addition, it's sort of a little bit of an unconventional parking layout to provide for those bigger parking fields to maneuver the vehicles. And you may be astute enough to notice some of the parking stalls are expanded in nature, at least the line work along the frontage. That is for the new product. So the new tractors to be positioned along middle for high visibility. The only other changes to the site plan from what exists today, there was a little bit of a bump out here on the western edge to increase the parking area there, and some of the interior islands that exist today because of its previous use for different type of parking, that those islands were eliminated. So that landscaping that was eliminated now is being supplemented around the perimeter. Other minor changes to the site plan, the western elevation, as you can see, has identified 3 new drive-in doors. That's for bringing product inside the building. We've also proposed, at staff's recommendation or staff's request, a new public sidewalk along Wooddale, sort of filling in an empty spot there. And then we have basically, per the ordinance, enhanced landscaping throughout. So those are really the subtle changes that are being made in order to make this this dealership work. Oh, and look at the timing of this.
Time I lost my way here. Sorry about that.
As I said, Mr. Miner is the CEO of CIT Trucks. I think you have like a 4 or 5 page PowerPoint that I think talks about CIT. I'll let Mr. Miner talk about that and talk about the operations. Thank goodness, because I'm not good enough to talk about the operations, so.
Yeah, I apologize. I have no idea, but I cannot seem to find this place. Anyway.
Sir, would you raise your right hand?
Sure.
State your name and address.
Eric Miner, 31 Crooked Creek, Bloomington, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So, let's see, there we go. Just a little about CIT. I thought it might be a little easier. There's about 4 slides here is all, but it gives you a little better visual on what we do. We are, I usually say we are just like a car dealer, except for trucks, for heavy and medium duty trucks. So we're a retail industry. A lot of times people get confused and think that we're actually hauling product or a truck stop or that type of, that's not what we do. So if you just kind of think about a car dealer here in town, then we're like that except for trucks. Much more business to business than individual, but we do have individual owner operators that we sell to, like all of us would go in and buy a car. We've got 19 business units, 3 divisions to our company. We're the dealerships, and then we have a finance company, and then we have a lease and rental company where we lease and rent trucks, all under the same umbrella. We're franchised with truck builders Volvo, Mack, Isuzu, and Autocar, and Kenworth. This location is just Kenworth. We're just franchised with Kenworth up here in this part of Chicago. And talk about our people. That's more of a slide to show kind of what we've done over the years. This gives a little bit of a business overview. We've been in business for 49 years, 33 years under our current ownership. We got 3 working owners. We have 870 employees. Our annual sales, we just finished this year at $738 million in annual sales, $246 million in assets. Among Kenworth dealers, we rank first in North America for customer service, second in financial operations, and 5th in new truck sales volume. That's just a quick overview of our locations. The different colors are because some of those are not under construction yet. Cape Girardeau, for instance, is approved. Our board has approved the expansion of Cape Girardeau, and Kenworth has approved us going in there, but we haven't started that facility yet. Just started a facility up in Burns Harbor, Indiana. Just started one in Green Oaks up by Waukegan. And then all the red dots are existing locations. And we can come back to this. I just don't want to take too much time on this type of thing, but give you a little idea who we are. So we sell new and used tractors. We are heavily into the sale of parts and components, much more so than a car dealer there. So where you would have AutoZones and Napas and those types of things, you don't see a lot of that for heavy duty tractors. We got some Fleet Prides and those types of folks, but primarily the dealerships handle the sale of the parts and components. Heavy into truck repair. The truck repair is, again, somewhat like cars, except more lengthy. So a truck will come in, if we do an engine overhaul on a truck, that could take us 2 weeks to complete a complete overhaul on a tractor, whereas a car, you're talking about a matter of a couple days. We have the truck lease and rental business, retail finance. Our hours, we go from 7 a.m. till midnight, Monday to Friday, and then till 3:30 on Saturdays, and all our hours are pretty much consistent across our whole footprint. We're planning on investing just a little over $1 million in this particular site by the time we get done with the parking lots and the landscaping and a lot of the things that we're going to need to do. 75 jobs initially, trying to grow that to 130 to 140 jobs within 5 years. Down under economic benefits, we have a current location that we've been running in Bensenville since 2004. It's parts only. It's a sizable facility. It has a central warehouse out there. They are, our landlord is tearing that building down starting in May, and they're putting big box units out where we're currently at. So we are gonna have to move from Bensenville. That current parts revenue at Bensenville is about $42.5 million a year. It's our largest parts operation in our network, our CIT network, and we currently employ 42 people out of Bensenville. All of that will transfer over here. So we're about 2 miles away. It's about 2 miles from our Bensenville store to here. And that's just a quick overview, just a few of the customers. You might recognize some of these. So when I say business to business, I think you can kind of see that we're dealing with larger organizations for the most part. And that was it. I was trying to keep that fairly brief, so we didn't get too much into minutia of it. But Phil, what do you?
Thanks, Eric. On the back. In your packet, as Exhibit B, as in boy, is our position statement on the proposed project's compliance with the special use standards of the city and the site plan review standards for approval. Given the location and the nearby uses, the proposed use is consistent with the surrounding uses in the heavy industrial neighborhood. Further, the neighborhood is expected to continue to be industrial under the city's comprehensive plan. As you can see in the traffic memorandum from KLOA, which is Exhibit H in your packet, the use will not negatively impact traffic in the area as it has about the same or less traffic than a manufacturing or light industrial use during the morning and afternoon peak hours. So it's consistent with the rest of the uses. It's consistent with the use that was in that property, on that parcel beforehand, and will not negatively impact traffic. I can go through all the standards. However, I now have those in front of you as Exhibit B. We've listed that. We've gone through it in pretty much detail, and I know you have it in front of you. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I also don't want to waste your time reiterating and reciting things that you've probably already looked at, and et cetera. We have also laid out our compliance with the site plan review standards in Exhibit B, which is in front of you, and we're happy to answer questions about either one. As I said earlier, we're seeking two variations due to the specific type of business we are hoping to have. First one is a sign variation seeking a building sign that is slightly less than 10% over the allowed size of 100 square feet. So the ordinance would allow a building sign of 100 square feet. Kenworth has a standard sign that they want on their dealership buildings if at all possible. Unfortunately, that standard Kenworth sign is 108 feet and 108.75 square feet. So it's less than 10% over the normal sign. In your packet, I think it's Exhibit G is the sign plan. And you can see that this is not a sign that's going to ruin the neighborhood. It's not going to be overly huge. It isn't the Trump sign downtown Chicago that's so huge. This fits the building, fits the capacity, fits the neighborhood. The size difference of 8.75 square feet is de minimis, and as we have laid out again in Exhibit 2, that the sign variation complies with the city's variation standards. Exhibit 2 is one of the exhibits I handed you a few minutes ago. As for the parking variation, we're seeking to decrease the required parking from 211 to 164 spaces on the site. As you've seen, we haven't decreased the amount of parking area. We've just kind of had to reconfigure it for a number of reasons, as Mr. Loftus said, mostly for truck trafficking and mostly for a different type of use. The reason 211 spaces are now required on the ordinance is because there's about 29,000 square feet of office in the current building. 14 and change on the first floor and a 14 and change on the second floor. This business does not need that much office. They have about 10 office staff employees. So they're only intending on using the first floor. So that other 14,000 square feet is not intended to be used, and at this point has no use. We're trying to repurpose an existing building. So this is not an office-intensive building. It's not the same kind of use that was probably there before that had a bunch of office staff. That's not what this is. Most of the employees here are techs. They're going to be working on trucks. I think we have about 5 salesmen that will be in and out because unlike your car salesman, these people are more, they're going to the client, right? They're going to FedEx or Groot and saying, hey, what do you need for trucks? FedEx isn't showing up at this site and going, hey, what trucks can you sell me tomorrow? That's not how this process works for the most part. So you just don't have as much staff as you would otherwise. We don't think there'll be more than 84 employees working any shift. That leaves 80 customer spots during the day. As I just said, it's not like a car dealer to that extent where they're not coming to you. I'm not walking into a truck and saying, can I buy an 18-wheeler or whatever it may be, a cab. That's usually, now there may be some of that, as we heard, owner-operators, but mostly it is going to be Groot, Waste Management I saw on the list, FedEx. They're not going to just walk in and say, oh, I want 15 trucks, so I need 15 people to come in and see them. That's not how this works. Most of the people trafficking will be coming in for retail. There'll be parts, they'll be in a van and they'll pick up 6 to 7 parts that they need for their back at their facility if they're going to repair their own trucks. Or we got trucks coming in, being dropped off, and as we heard, sitting there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on parts. So we don't expect any problem with parking. As I said, there's 80 additional spaces for customers, which based on our experience at other locations, and Mr. Miner can tell you more about it if necessary, is way more than enough. Now, we do have the issue of shift change. I understand that, if we're going to have 2 shifts. The second shift will not be 84. It's expected to be about 32 to 40 people. So during that half hour of a shift change, let's say at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, we'll have 120 people. But that's not also when you're going to have customers. That's not really the retail time period. To the extent it does become a problem, the upside is we can vary our staff. Everybody might be 8 to 5 now, but if it becomes, hey, we have so much business, we have all these employees, we can have some people start at 6 and end at 3, other people start at 8 and end at 5, and really kind of spread out that crunch that you see. I was a soccer dad, and you'd go to those things and they'd say, oh, you got all the spaces, and the problem is they forget that there's a half hour where there's a lot of overlap, right? This is a problem we can take care of here. And the company is willing to do that. And if there is a problem, as you saw, we have as you saw in the staff report, to the north there's 0.76 acres that are vacant that we could use if necessary if it did become an issue. Again, we've provided our analysis as to each of the standards of your parking variations. I'm happy to go through them, but they're in front of you in Exhibit 2. I don't want to belabor it. Any questions about them? But we have laid out pretty significantly in detail why we think we meet the standards for the variation, the special use. As you know, as relates to special uses, after Living Word in about 2003, our world changed as special uses. They're almost considered a permitted use, except if they're in a specific spot that does not make sense, or unless there's something specific about that use that's going to cause a problem in that neighborhood. That's not occurring here. So special use, I don't think is much of a huge issue here. Obviously, that's your call and not mine. But we would ask, we're here for any questions, but we would ask you make a recommendation to the City Council for approval of all 3 special uses and the 2 variations. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Lucahan.
Thank you, Mr. Conway.
Does any member of the CDC have any questions for Mr. Lucahan or any other folks associated with the applicant? Okay. What we'll do now is we'll move on to staff, and then after staff, we'll move on to any members of the public who have any statements or opinions they'd like to express.
Okay. Very good. Well, to begin, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you for your attention and to thank the applicant for their overview of the project proposal. It was very comprehensive. Staff would really like to build upon the comments that have been made to really highlight the way that the proposal meets the standards of the Unified Development Ordinance, that's the city's zoning code, and the goals of the comprehensive plan. So here is a satellite view of the project area. As you're already aware, the subject property is generally located at the northwest corner of Wooddale Road and Middle Drive in the industrial park. The project property consists of 3 parcels. The principal parcel contains an existing 115,000 square foot building, roughly, and a surface parking lot. The 2 northerly parcels are under common ownership and are currently undeveloped. The principal parcel is zoned I-1 Industrial Business Park only. That's the parcel with the structure on it. And the 2 undeveloped parcels to the north are located in the TIO, Thorndale Interchange Overlay, with underlying I-1 zoning. Because no new structures are being constructed on these 2 northerly parcels, the TIO zoning requirements are not triggered, and therefore only the I-1 zoning requirements apply. So this is a view of the property looking north from Middle Drive. As you can see, there's that office component on the east side of the building and a warehouse component on the west side of the building. This is the view from Wooddale Road. This is facing northwest. And finally, these are the existing conditions looking east. So as you're already aware, the intent of the petitioner is to operate a dealership and rental facility for medium and heavy-duty trucks. I will note that the footprint of the building will not be altered as part of this proposal. However, interior modifications to the floor plan will be required to accommodate the offices, warehousing, and retail sale of the truck parts. Although the existing building spans 2 floors, it is anticipated that only the first floor will be initially occupied by the applicant, with the possibility of expanding operations to the second floor at a later date to accommodate additional staff. The exterior site modifications will marginally increase the footprint of the parking lot, with the elimination of 2 existing parking lot islands, the trees in which will be relocated on the site. The parking stalls adjacent to Middle Drive will be enlarged for the display of trucks being sold, but in the opinion of staff, ultimately the reconfiguration of the parking lot is not expected to have a major impact on the visual appearance of the site. 2 driveways on Middle Drive currently provide access, with a 3rd proposed entrance on AEC Drive west of the building, again to provide that truck maneuvering flexibility. A traffic statement was prepared and submitted as part of this application, which found that the dealership is expected to generate less traffic during morning peak hours and a similar volume of traffic during evening peak hours compared to a manufacturing or general light industrial use occupying the same building. New landscaping will be added to the perimeter of the entire parking lot with an emphasis on Wooddale Road, which is considered a community gateway corridor. So essentially that is serving as an entrance to Wooddale from Thorndale and Illinois Route 390, so there are enhanced requirements for landscaping. The applicant is proposing to meet those requirements with additional shrubs, trees, and ornamental grasses. Finally, a new segment of sidewalk will be extended along Wooddale Road, helping bridge a gap in the city's sidewalk network. And although not shown on this attached site plan, the sidewalk will be required to extend all the way to the north end of the site across the 2 undeveloped parcels, which is something that will be addressed at the time of permitting. 3 primary signs are proposed on the site: a wall sign on the south side of the building facing Middle Drive, a wall sign on the east side of the building facing Wooddale Road, and a monument sign at the southeast corner of the site near the intersection of Wooddale Road and Middle Drive. And you can see the renderings here. So in terms of engineering and stormwater management, according to the municipal code, any increase of 10,000 square feet or more of impervious surface area requires on-site stormwater detention. While engineering review is not typically required for special use petitions, due to the proposed site modifications, staff requested that a concept plan be submitted by the applicant, which is what you can see here. In response, the project engineer provided a written statement describing how the increased stormwater runoff will be managed. This will be accomplished via a 1.9 acre-foot wetland bottom detention basin, which will be constructed on the 2 north parcels north of the principal structure. City engineers have reviewed this concept plan and raised no objections. Ultimately, the project will need to demonstrate full compliance with the stormwater management and floodplain codes of the city prior to the issuance of any building permits. At this time, staff believe the level of engineering submittal is sufficient for the purpose of this petition. So, a total of 5 distinct but related uses are proposed on the site. 2 of the uses are permitted by right, which means they do not require special approval by the CDC or City Council. These uses are office and indoor retail sale of goods, provided that the retail sale is no more than 25% of the net square footage of the building. The 3 remaining uses are the special uses: motor vehicle sales, motor vehicle rental, and motor vehicle repair. I will note that while special uses are considered desirable in their respective zoning districts, careful consideration should be given to the potential impact of these uses upon neighboring properties and the public in general. In terms of parking, as you're already aware, a total of 211 spaces would typically be required for these uses. However, the applicant is seeking the zoning variation to reduce the parking requirement by 48 total spaces. This is mitigated by the fact that there will be split shifts, so approximately 60% of the staff will work during the day shift and 40% will work the night shift. Given the size of the parking lot, it may be possible to restripe at a later date should additional parking be required for any future tenants. So there's some flexibility built in. Finally, the two of the proposed signs are code compliant. However, the sign facing Wooddale Road, which spells out Kenworth in full, exceeds the maximum permitted area by approximately 9 square feet. According to the applicant, this again is a pre-manufactured sign provided by the Kenworth Corporation. So fabricating a custom sign would be financially burdensome and may not be approved by corporate. So considering that the signs are a standard size, which marginally exceeds the maximum permitted area, a sign code variation has been requested accordingly. In terms of compliance with the comprehensive plan, the subject property is designated as Industrial Business Park on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. This land use category encompasses small and medium and large industrial spaces, including manufacturing, warehouse, and flexible space with offices, primarily to support manufacturing operations. Staff will note that the O'Hare submarket is experiencing development pressure for warehousing and logistics facility, which creates demand for short-haul trucking in our region. The area's proximity to the airport and future connection to the Elgin O'Hare Western Access Project, I-490, makes this location desirable and suitable for this type of use. Development of this type also presents benefits to the city by strengthening the sales tax base and increasing employment opportunities for our residents. Therefore, staff believe that the proposed uses are compatible with the description and therefore generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. As of the drafting of this memorandum and presentation, staff received no written comments from the public. So for the aforementioned reasons, the Community Development Department finds that the request for 3 special uses to allow a truck dealership, repair, and rental facility with accessory retail sale of vehicle parts, a zoning variation to reduce the required number of on-site parking spaces, and the sign code variation to increase the maximum wall sign size is compatible with surrounding zoning and land use classifications. It meets the requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance and is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. As such, staff recommends that the Community Development Commission recommend approval of the petition with certain conditions to the Planning, Zoning, and Building Committee of the Wooddale City Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member of the CDC have any questions for staff?
I know trucks come in to get worked on and stuff. Is there room in that area for trailers to be dropped? Do we have an area designated for that?
Yeah, if I, do you mind?
You just go up to the podium or just show us on the...
Yeah, so these recessed docks here, I believe there's 15. That's where we'll have the trailer drop, where these, we don't need delivery docks.
Right.
So that's where we're gonna do our trailer drop. We typically, on an interstate facility, for instance, Mokina might be a place you guys would be familiar with. That's heavy interstate traffic for us. We have 9 drops there on the dealership site. So it's not as much as you might think. Most people, especially in a city dealership like this, will bobtail in. There might be somebody off of 355 or one of the interstates nearby that'll be under load and have a problem and maybe derate or something like that, and they'll have to get into us and they'll have to drop. At that point, once we have 9, then we have to direct them somewhere to drop.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant or for staff on this request?
Are there times where you have to park the trailers or the semis on the street?
No. Now, I wouldn't say there's not
Sir,
times.
sir, if we could just have you stand
Yeah, no,
up,
I'm
because
sorry.
we're just recording this. So we
Okay.
wanna make sure it gets into the mic.
Yeah, I shouldn't say there's never times. There'll be, like today, where we'd have a real bad prolonged cold snap. You're going to see a lot of trucks get pulled in. Again, we can only take what we can take, and then they have to be turned down. So typically, a tow company will call us and say they want to bring something in. If we're loaded, then we have to tell them we can't take any more today or for a week or whatever. So especially here, no, we wouldn't park those on the street. Mokina, we do have, Mokina allows us to park some on that frontage road coming to us if we get into a situation like this, but it's a big wide road and it can accommodate the traffic, but that very, very seldom happens.
Yeah, because Middle, there wouldn't be any room on Middle, and I know there's no parking anywhere in that industrial park. How
Yeah.
about customers? Do you have truckers that repair the trucks? Sometimes, like if an owner comes in and buys parts from you, would he have to, like they do at AutoZone or something,
Yeah.
sit out there and work on their cars? Do they do that here?
They do that at times here, but again, not very often do they come in with a trailer. They'll typically it's going to be an employee of the trucking company. They're going to come in with a pickup or a van, and they're going to pick up their parts. They're going to come in actually into the store and pick up their parts. Now, again, I can't say that there wouldn't be somebody pull in and have to have a fan belt or something like that and want to fix it right on the lot, but it's very
Or
seldom.
you have enough parking on
Yeah,
the lot to accommodate that?
Correct. They'd pull into an open spot. Typically, they would probably pull in here behind, pulling behind this area, or they might pull up in here. But again, we won't let them do that for very long because they're going to block what we're trying to do. So we'll ask them to go ahead and take the belt and move on to another lot or go back to where they're headquartered at.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any other questions?
One more question. You're probably going to display new trucks, obviously, in the lot, right? So that would be closest to the street?
Yes. The new truck, we'll display new trucks here.
And used trucks, what are you going to do with those then?
Those will probably be more along this area right here, but we won't have a whole lot. We're not a huge used truck dealer, so we probably would have maybe 6 used at a time.
So
Then
you're not going to accumulate that many because you don't want to there. You can send them somewhere else, right?
right, and then we, you know, the less used inventory, the better for us, business-wise. Then we also have dealership in Grays Lake, we have dealership in Green Oaks, we'll have Mokina, and that's where we'll primarily have the bulk of our sales trucks. But we'll have some sales trucks here. This location we'll sell a lot of trucks out of here, but this will primarily be a parts and service location for us. That's the most of the traffic anyway, is what you'll see. And then our, like Phil was saying, our truck sales people will be out in the field, and they'll be physically taking a truck to a customer, or they'll be going over a spec with the customer. And so we don't stock, I think we'll see some truck dealers that will stock literally 50, 60. We don't do that. Typically, we try to control our inventory and do mostly order out, so.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the CDC members, either for the applicant or for staff? Okay, what I want to do right now is I want to open the floor to any member of the public who may have a statement or opinion on this particular request. Ma'am, if you could just approach the podium, please.
Hello,
Raise your right hand, please. State your name and address.
Jennifer Lacona, 4900 Kimball Hill Drive in Rolling Meadows.
And you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Of course I do, so help me God. I'm with the Wooddale Historical Society, and we are the property that is just to the north of that piece that juts out there. And so we have just a couple questions about the proposed retention area that you have there. One of those is, how much water do you expect to be held in that retention area at any given time? Because we hold events at the Historical Society at the museum property there, and kind of concerns us a little bit. So,
And, you know, the way we'll do this is if you could propose your list of questions.
Okay.
And then we'll have the applicant go through those one at a time.
okay. Okay, so how much water is going to be held in the retention area? How deep is that retention area going to be dug? And what type of barrier will be put up between our property and the retention area? Because we have a lot of kids at the events, and we don't want anything happening. Currently, there is a fence there from the Rosenwinkel property that was there, and there's a gate in it at the moment, but nobody goes through it, thank goodness. But that's a current barrier to that not-so-safe property at the moment. So, and that's it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Does the applicant wish to address any of the questions from
Mr. Loftus will respond to those questions.
Have to do the math. So, to answer the question, yeah, the detention pond that's being proposed is what we call a wetland bottom, so it'll appear very natural. It will be primarily dry under normal circumstances, okay? So it might have 6 inches to a foot of water, so we would be planting it with plants that we would consider having wet feet, okay? So something that you would see in a normal wetland type setting. Under a high water level condition, right now in this preliminary engineering stage, we're thinking about 4.5 feet of what we call live storage. So under an extreme water event, retention event, that water will be held back, and at its highest point will be about 4 feet of depth. That will continue to drain down over a period of about 48 to 72 hours. As far as the total quantity of water, you're looking at, per the ordinance, and this is kind of a fancy engineering unit, but it's 1.9 acre feet. Now, an acre foot is 1 foot of water over an acre of real estate, so that's 43,560 square feet. So that gives you, I guess, an order of magnitude of how much water is being stored. That's per the ordinance. That's a good thing, because that's water that's not negatively impacting the downstream property owners. So that water then gets released at a controlled rate, which gives the sewer that's out there today available capacity that it doesn't have right now if that storm event hits. Does that answer your question?
So it gets released into the sewer system?
As it's designed right now, yes, it will. Right now, the current situation is there is a storm sewer that drains Wooddale Road, and it comes from the north to the south. It daylights, so that means the storm water comes out to the surface and traverses this property parallel to Wooddale, okay, in an open channel flow situation. And then it rejoins a closed sewer system at Middle and Wooddale Avenue and re-enters the Cook County Highway Department, DuPage County Highway Department's storm sewer system.
Okay, so it's gonna run down the road,
Parallel to the road, correct.
but in the road?
No, the drainage conveyance of the stormwater runs basically from here, open channel flows
In
from
there,
here.
okay. So it's gonna come out onto your property and come down, I gotcha. Okay.
So the theory is we're gonna bring that water into the property, hold it, delay it, free up capacity downstream, so it averages out that peak flow.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who has any other questions or comments they'd like to make? Yeah, ma'am.
You didn't address the barrier between the properties.
Well, I think there is an existing fence. The client has agreed that they would maintain or upgrade that fence to keep that barrier for the children. I mean, obviously, we don't want that either. I think the other thing to note, and Bill can tell me if I'm wrong, but we're actually helping with the stormwater with this project because this is a project that already has impervious surface. We're adding some impervious surface, but not the amount of the acre storage we're doing. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Loftus?
That's correct.
Okay. I get in trouble when I try and play engineer, but thank you. So I hope that answers your questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions from any other members of the public? All right, so what we'll do right now is we'll do a last call for CDC questions. Does the CDC have any follow-up questions for the applicant or for staff on this?
No.
Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll do a motion to close the public hearing portion. And as I always remind you, once we close the public hearing portion, the question piece is concluded, and then it's just for CDC deliberations. So if you have one last leading question, now's the time to do it. Okay. Having no additional testimony in this matter, can I please get a motion to close the public hearing for case number CDC 2023-007?
I will make the motion to close the public hearing portion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll just take a roll call vote.
Ms. Zatko?
Yes.
Ms. Rudnicki?
Yes.
Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
And Chairman Ochoa?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries. The public hearing portion of this case is closed. At this point, what we'll do is do what's called CDC deliberations. So this is your opportunity to make any statements you'd like to make, either for the request or in opposition to the request, make any sort of comments of that nature. Does anybody wish to make a statement or a comment about this particular request?
I think this would be a really good company we have in town.
Okay.
Andy, great job putting this packet together. Very easy to read.
Thank you.
Mr. Eric Miner, your track record is very impressive across the country. And we hope that here in Wooddale, and if everything goes favorable, number one. Number one customer service, number one sales, you name it. Looks very beautiful. Excited to see what this is going to bring to our city.
Thank you. Okay, any other statements, comments? All right, so this is the clunky portion of the case. As I usually do, I recommend a motion, okay, because of the number of requests that are being made in this particular case. It's a lengthy motion, so I will read through the entire recommended motion. If you are in favor of the request, you would vote yes. If you are not in favor of recommending the request, you would vote no. Okay, so I will read the recommended motion. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed request for 3 special uses to allow a truck dealership, repair and rental facility with accessory retail sale of vehicle parts, zoning variation, sign code variation, and site plan review for the property at 101 Middle Drive is consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. And therefore, I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated January 15th, 2024, as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of the 3 special uses to allow a truck dealership, repair and rental facility with accessory retail sale of vehicle parts, zoning variation, sign code variation, and site plan review for the property at 101 Middle Drive in case number CDC 2023-0007, subject to the following conditions. 1, the special uses, zoning variation, sign code variation, and site plan shall substantially conform to the staff memo dated January 15, 2024 in the attached exhibits, except as such plans may be modified to meet city code requirements. Where deviations to the codes have not been requested as part of this approval, the existing codes must be met as applicable at the time of permit application. Number 2, the special use permit shall be deemed to relate to and be for the benefit of the lot itself. Number 3, final engineering approval prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 4, an easement shall be placed and recorded on the undeveloped parcels which will contain the stormwater detention basin to ensure the stormwater detention basin serves the entire site in perpetuity. And number 5, the developer has the ongoing obligation to maintain the landscaping on the site in accordance with the approved landscape plan. That is the proposed motion. Any member can say so moved.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'm sorry, was it Mr. Ochoa?
Yeah, Mr. Ochoa made the motion, Mr. Parenti seconded.
And a roll call. Mr. Parenti,
Yes.
Ms. Zeko,
Yes.
Ms. Rudnicki,
Yes.
and Chairman Ochoa.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. The recommendation of the CDC will be to recommend approval of all the requests as submitted. That will go to the PZB committee. I'm not sure, staff, do we know when that's going to go to the PZB?
I believe we have a date, and I apologize, I'm not prepared. I believe it may be next Thursday, the 25th of January.
Okay.
The
So it's scheduled to go to the PZB committee on the 25th of January. From there, it would go to the full city council at a city council meeting. And that concludes that case. And at this point in time, Mr. Chairman, I will cede the floor back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. We'll continue with tonight's agenda. Staff liaison report. Is there any report from staff?
Not at this time.
There being no report, we can adjourn. We need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed signify by stating no. The motion carries. This meeting's adjourned.